This is Koorosh Academy's Tech Guide. Today we are going to talk about pre-ride check. In other words, we have a trial motorcycle and want to go for a ride. Which parts we should check before ride so that we do not get into trouble when we go outside. Hi, it's Nagan Qaderi from Koorosh Academy. Right before we jump to this video, please make sure you click the subscription button and the bell notification icon to be informed of any new videos that are being made and can use the experience and tutorial videos of this academy, so you don't miss a thing. We have two types of pre-ride checks. One is when you have a new motorcycle and you need to customize and change some adjustment. Other one is when you have a used bike and need to simply check some parts to make sure they perform well. These two kinds are a little bit different, so we will discuss both of them in a different videos. Today we are going to talk about second option, when we have a used trial bike and we need common pre-checks to make sure anything special isn't going to happen for us. And first of all, I need to say the order of doing this thing does not matter at all, and whether it matters, I will tell you. Before we go through part, I want to remind you one important tip. That is, do not keep your trial motorcycle on the ground without a stand on its own weight, because over time it will damage your suspension and made it not work as well as usual. Because the bike's weight for a trial bike is normally between 70 or 80 kilograms, and keeping motorcycles simply on the ground make your suspension engage, and it will have some negative side effects such as destroying your seal and some forked parts. So if you don't have a stand, just keep that simply on a chair like this. Now let's go for the part. First part, and the most important part for me, is to check the clutch and brake levers. Because the function of both is similar, I will explain one of them. This is brake lever. In this case, consider something about 3 mm free space for this movement. And after this free area, brake will start to work. This is really important to have this movement here, because when you go for a ride and use brake continuously for a long time, the brake fluids heat up and increase in volume due to these brakes. If you do not take into account this empty space, then the brake will be locked and it will break unintentionally. So just keep that in your mind. We need this space to have a bit vertical movement here. Don't tight it too much. You can also check the amount of oil in brake pump through a small glass part here. Next tip will be cleaning caliper, front and rear, and brake pads and brake discs. About brake, I should say brake is one of the important parts in trial bike and has a great effect on your ride. About brake caliper, I should say brake is one of the most important parts in trial bike, which has a great effect on your ride. This part that you are seeing now should be clean all the time, and if it's not clean, will make you problem. When you use brake, the brake pump comes forward evenly. If they are not clean, they will come forward unequal, which leads to a weak brake performance. And other common problem would be when you use brake pumps come forward and can't go back. So your brake will work all the time without you notice, and in a long time it will lock your wheels. About brake disc, I heard some weird suggestions for how to clean them up, but the most useful and cheapest way for me is a wash with clean towel and water, and that is for the time I don't have disc washer around. Third one to check is front and rear wheel spokes. The spokes of the wheel are inspected in such a way that not to be too tight and solid, but when you try to open the screws, they should not be so loose that you can open them with your hand. Make sure you don't go too tight on them, because they will lose their flexibility, especially in the face of impact, and make us break the rim. In some cases, it may break from this aluminum part that you are seeing now. The most effective thing that makes your motorcycle spokes exposed to loose is riding in river road. So if you ride along a river or into a water flow, don't forget to check your spokes. Fourth tip is to check parts screw. What screws do the part include that need to be checked? Let me tell you. Kickstart screw, gears screw, gear pedals screw, flywheels or ignition cover screws, clutch covers screws, rear sprockets screws, rear and front disc screws, rear and front mudguard, and seat screws and protector plate screws. That's a lot. About part screws, I should tell you vibration of the motorcycle, often when the engine is running, cause these screws to loosen and sometimes fall. Screws that need more check and they are likely to loosen and fall due to engine vibration are kickstart screws, gear pedal screw, flywheel or ignition screw, clutch cover screw, rear and front disc brakes screw, rear sprockets screw, rear and front mudguards screw, seats screws and protector plates screws. We have other screws that need to be checked, but these screws are more likely to lose due to impact and being hit, such as front and rear axle or shaft screws. Fifth tip is to lubricate some joint of part, for example, footrest, gear shift level, foot peg, step plate, foot brake level, brake and clutch levels. Here are some tips to help you lubricate some parts. First one is footrest, because when you ride a motorcycle, the footrest is exposed to a lot of dirt and mud. Now, what problem can cause? The first problem is that when you fall or you are in a situation that the footrest hits to an obstacle, this will fold back up, and if it's not clean and lubricate, it may get stuck and not return. So the problem will start when you try to put your foot on footrest and you will face an empty space, and that will really make you some serious problems. The second problem may occur is that as footrests don't have this movement here like this that you are seeing in this video, and when the footrests don't have this movement and hit to something, it will break instead of going up. The next part to be considered in joint lubrication is gear shift lever foot peg. It has also a joint here like footrest and moves in this direction, and if it's not clean and lubricate, it may not work well and cause problems like footrest problems. It may break to the impact, and it even can make damage on your motorcycle's flywheel or ignition cover. The next part that should be considered in joint lubrication should be clean, lubricate. It's a step plate foot brake lever. This is like gear shift lever foot peg. It also has a joint like a footrest and moves in this direction that you are seeing, and if it's not clean and lubricate, it may not work well, and when you need it may make you some problems or may break due to the impact. So don't forget to check these movements and make sure it works in its range of motion. The next item that needs to be cleaned and lubricated is the brake lever and clutch lever. It is very important to lubricate the levers so that they work smoother and quieter. Sixth tip is to check throttle and throttle swap. Make sure they work smoothly. If this part does not work well, your hand and wrist will get tired much faster than ever, because every time you release the gas, it does not return to its place quickly, and you have to spend more energy for keeping it in the right position. How often depends on type of ride you have, once a month, or maybe after a crash when you feel dirt goes into throttle, you need to open this lid and throttle grip, then clean them and a little bit lubricate them. 7th tip is to adjustment and lubricate chain. When I say chain adjustment, I mean adjusting the chain to be tight or loose in a different situation depending on the type of road you choose for a ride your bike. Regarding lubrication of chain, consider that your motorcycle chain should never be dry. It should always have some oil on it. That will help it move easier, faster and smoother. Next tip is don't spray oil toward rear and back of the motorcycle. You should spray oil in this part like this video. The reason for that is if you spray on rear part, it is possible oil spray on your disc too. As we said, the looseness or tightness of the chain should be chosen according to the ride you will have. If you will ride your motorcycle on a rainy day, you can adjust the chain a little bit looser so it won't cause any sudden shock on the motorcycle during power transmission. And if you want to ride on a normal day, you can tighten the chain to cause transfer power with more intensity and shock. Also check the screws and function of your chain tensioner to make sure it works well enough for ride. 8th, checking the front and rear tire air pressure. Interior tire air pressure is so important. In this case, I should tell you your rear air pressure for race situation should be 0.3 bar and front wheel should be 0.4 bar. If you don't ride in race situation or muddy ground, your rear air pressure should be 0.35 bar and front wheel should be 0.45 bar. These numbers are for Michelin and Dunlop tires that are prepared in racing style. These are softer tires in comparison with normal ones, and this amount can be a little bit different for other tires due to their material. The 9th case, checking the bottom head of your motorcycle, that is here. In case of checking bike's not steering, if you want to find out whether it's tight enough or not, you should keep front brake and push the bike like this video. At the same time, check this area that you are seeing in the video to see if it's moved or not. If it's tight enough, you shouldn't feel any movement in this area. But if it's loose, you will feel some movements here. For tighten them up, you need to open this screw first, then tighten this part and test it to make sure it's tight enough, and then tighten the screw again. The 10th case, check the front suspension and screws that hold the suspension, these parts. In this case, I should tell you we see two lines on top of the fork tube. We have some step screw from this line to the top, which hold this part that you are seeing. Keep that in your mind. You should adjust this part due to your height. The maximum place it can adjust is where you can still see these lines. Don't go too up, because when you tighten this screw, the pressure will transfer directly to step screws and will damage them. So, when you want to adjust your suspension, keep that in your mind. They should be exactly in same place and you should be able to see these lines. Another tip is how to check them before ride. It's so easy. You need to take a look on them to see whether they are in same and right position or not. Because after a while riding, it's possible for them to move a little bit, and you just need to make sure they are in the right place and screws are tight enough. The 11th case, engine oil and radiator water. Some motorcycles have a glasses display on a clutch cover that you can see how much oil is in the engine. But we don't have that sign here in SHARE and can't understand this. Also, it's not logical to open it every time for checks. So, the solution will be checking your engine oil and radiator water due to your ride style. For example, If you ride in a hot summer for a long time in a high pressure, you will definitely need to check your motorcycle water. Or maybe you see some oil on the ground that comes from your bike, then you will need to check. But for a normal ride, or if you don't do any special thing, you don't need to check them every time, because they won't change unless there is a problem with them. Apart from engine oil and radiator water, there is two other subjects that don't need to check for every ride unless you feel there is a problem and there is something wrong with them and they're not working well. The first one is motor spark and the second is carburetor. Your spark may get dirty depending on the setting you have set for carburetor, and you must also set this setting according to the factory filler. In carburetor, you may need once a week, once in a 10-day, or I don't know, maybe even once in a month to check and clean the carburetor and the carburetor tank and cleaning them. And cleaning them will enhance refueling to your engines. We have a series of specialized checks that need both knowledge and advanced tools. For example, change the suspension oil or visit some part or joint for motorcycle real shock. It's not easy for everyone to check these parts, and I suggest you these parts should be done by someone who has both the necessary tools and the knowledge toward checking these parts, so that your motorcycle and part will not damage and you will get a better function. Well, I told you all necessary basic guide that everyone should know, and at the end I just want to say, don't afraid of checking your bike. It may look a bit confusing, but when you start to do it, most of that is just a simple look to see screws are in their place and they are tight enough, or doing these checks doesn't need any special tools, but the result will be protect yourself and your bike in return of some unexpected accident, and it can even reduce your service fees that you are paying for your bike. We will show our next bike service, so if you're interested to see how all is going to work, make sure you click the subscription button and join to our channel so you won't miss any of future videos. And thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any question about each part, write down on the comment below. If you enjoy watching this video, leave a like on it. And again, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.